Hey guys, it's Allison. So today I'm going to revisit an old blog post because I've seen this pop up in the Facebook group a little bit more lately. This um, I would phrase it as like unrealistic expectations, maybe, which I think that we're all guilty of, and I think expectations are usually what make us pretty miserable. So with the unrealistic expectation that either we're going to be full in our first couple months or our life is going to look a particular way. So for those of you who are in your first year or about to start your first year, I want to go through the first part of what to expect in your first year. I would say one of the most important things is imposter syndrome. Like, I know it's not what anybody wants to hear, but I still have imposter syndrome sometimes, whether it's my business skills, whether it's my clinical skills, and that sense that somebody might someday realize that you're subpar is pretty terrifying. And the idea that maybe the success that you've had thus far is luck, pretty common. Like, I would love to say that that this is not one of the most common things I see in that first year of private practice, but I'd be a total liar. This is definitely a thing. Another thing I see a lot in the first year is this boom and bust. So sometimes people will get a flood of calls, like they'll really put a lot of work into marketing and they'll get a flood of calls and then it's crickets. And in the early months, that's kind of how it is sometimes. You're more likely to have those booms and busts. It does level out over time. There are probably going to be some consistent times that you see fewer clients. Like I don't work the last 2 weeks of the year because the holidays make it a little bit crazy. And my clientele, like the new people at least, are very much like, I'll start on Monday, I'll start on the 1st, I'll start, like they like the deadlines. A lot of people have slower times in the summer. I work with eating disorders. That doesn't happen for me, but it does sometimes happen for other people. Another thing I see in that first year is this like optimism, pessimism roller coaster. You get a call and you have a new client coming in, and this elation, this thrill that happens can very quickly become this fear that you're going to fail. I see that a lot. And that can happen within the same hour. It's just this crazy roller coaster. I also see a ton of comparison in this first year. In the Facebook groups, people will be like, I started my practice 2 weeks ago and I'm full. And that's great for them, but I want you to know that that is not something most of us experience. If you're going to compare yourself, which you are because you're a human being and that's what we do, I think to just keep bringing in as much self-compassion as you can. Another thing I see a lot is getting stuck in scarcity mode. So there's a lot of work on the front end before you really start booking clients, and that can feel really, really terrifying. And it's with scarcity often comes like fear and grief and hopelessness and pessimism and self-deprecation and frustration and hurt, and all of that will kind of boil up inside of you sometimes, and those are all feelings that we want to avoid. So just be aware of getting stuck in scarcity mode. And FYI, tomorrow we're going to talk about what to do with each of these things. Another thing, so I'm just normalizing right now. Another thing that I see a lot is learning things the hard way. And for me, that's not just the first year. I kind of insist in life on learning things the hard way for some reason. I don't know why. You can warn me all day long not to do something, and I'll be like, well, we'll see. So this entire business came from the desire to save people from learning the hard way like I did. Like, that's why I'm doing abundance, because it sucks. Another thing I see is that some therapists are assholes. Like, let's be honest. Some of them are going to tell you nobody succeeds in private practice. Some of them are going to tell you you won't succeed in private practice. And that's because they're stuck in their own scarcity mindset. They don't know in their bones that there are plenty of clients to go around like I do. I'm clear. I've seen it all over the world. There are plenty of clients for all of us. But that kind of attitude around you a lot can really negatively impact you a lot. Another thing is that some of us are really good fakers. And it's not with the purpose of being mean or deceitful. It's just like we all like to pretend like we have our shit together, and we don't all have our shit together, and that's just the way it is. So as you're doing the comparison thing that I mentioned a minute ago, to realize that like you're comparing where you are with the curated version of where someone else is, and that's not necessarily fair to you. And then burnout is a huge thing I see in the first year of practice, which a lot of people are like, how in the world do I have burnout when I'm seeing 5 clients a week? But you've got those 5 clinical hours. You're probably investing a lot of time in learning a lot. You're spending time with new systems, new business stuff. You're staying on top of your clinical skills. You're reassuring your mom that your business is growing. You're reassuring yourself that your business is growing. You're doing paperwork. You're using all your frustration tolerance skills. You're networking. You're overanalyzing every networking experience. You're brainstorming. I mean, like, there's a lot going on in that first year, even if you're not doing a whole bunch of clinical hours every single week. And then I would say the last thing I see in the first year is people start to really gain a new kind of confidence. So there's this point when you realize, like, you're on your way, and you'll see people newly in private practice trying to hide their panic, and you'll realize you don't have to hide yours anymore because you know you've got this. It may hit you one day, or it might be more of a gradual knowing. And it's like, it's kind of like when you stopped worrying about what you were going to say in session. Like, all of a sudden you just figured out you can be present and use the skills that you've learned and practiced for however long. So I know that that first year's super rough. Obviously, like, the confidence piece is really the only thing out of the list that I just gave you that anyone would sign up for on purpose. And I will say, I was actually having a conversation with my friend Jane Carter yesterday that's going to be on the podcast this month about how much more confident we feel now as human beings because of being business owners, even though there have been some really painful moments. So if you're in this first year, I want you to know all this stuff is normal. If you want some help, we've got the Abundance Party, which is awesome. It's got courses to give you all the education you need to have a successful practice. And then it's got an amazing community full of people who are genuinely interested in caring about one another's success. So that's got its own small private community. You can check that out at abundanceparty.com and see if it's a fit for you. And otherwise, tomorrow we're going to talk some about, like, what to do with all of this. So, all right, cool. I will talk with y'all later.